Hey guys, thank you for checking out this week's episode of the DDT Method podcast. Today I'm bringing you a guest that specializes in both ends of the spectrum, both sides of what we love to talk about here. And I mean like the biohacking and longevity world, along with the hardcore bodybuilding world. Because let's face it, we all want to live forever. We all want to feel good. We all want to be able to play with our kids, our grandkids, our great-grandkids, whatever we end up having. But at the same token, we all want to be freaks of nature too. I don't mean humanity in general. I mean, if you listen to this podcast, chances are you want to have a couple freaky body parts. You want to be super lean. You want to be super jacked, whatever your definition of it is. But you also want to lean into the longevity side, the performance side. You want the best of everything. And until recently, we haven't really been able to settle on the best way to do that. But there's so much information emerging now. And today I get to sit down with DT Roth to go over both sides of the spectrum. This is somebody that's competed at the highest levels of bodybuilding, as well as running a clinic nationwide, helping regular people and athletes optimize not only their hormones, but their general health through things like peptide interventions and numerous different therapies, I guess is the best way to say it. So we're going to get into all things human enhancement today. But before we do that, give us a little bit of background on yourself. Like what got you into bodybuilding? How did that take you out of bodybuilding and into longevity and HRT and whatnot? Like what brought you here?
Well, thanks. I want to say thank you for having me on today. First of all, stuff like this helps us get around and get known in the industry and seeing people that you don't see and people, could see me that probably don't know who the hell I am. But I want to say appreciate that very much. So thank you so much. Man, it all started back a long time ago. Grew up a fat kid, typical, got picked on my whole life. And I'm sure every single bodybuilder nowadays is getting into it because they're insecure about themselves, but that's another story. So, got into it, watched Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, growing up, was playing football at the time and trying to figure out how do we look like a bodybuilder and play football? Well, we didn't know at that point. So long story short, got into this about 2012, started my first show. And my last show was, what were we at? I guess 2024 in October. I'm no longer competing. So I've been doing it for a while. And it's been a great run. It's been really cool. I've learned a lot. I've messed up a lot. So from my mess ups, I've learned a lot. But now we're into the HRT category. And the reason why I got into that was because at a certain point, you learn so much, right? You experiment a lot of things on yourselves and, you start to find these trends of what people are suffering with, what's happening. So I found the place that I'm at now is actually a new creation of an old place that we had. It was LifeXMD. It's still around, but we created BioXL because of the fact that who I am and what I look like, I tend to look more of the hardcore sector, and I'm still trying to produce optimal health. So we created this BioXL athlete performance, which draws into a lot of normal people, right? So you would think that when you're going for athletes, you're going to just get bodybuilders. And that's not what I want, because I want people healthy. And as we know, bodybuilding isn't healthy. So long story short, sorry for the ramble, but yeah, that's kind of that's where I'm at. That's kind of what's going on now. HRT is huge now. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry is doing HRT. Every social media influencer talk about peptides. Everyone knows everything. I mean, it's so saturated. I think it's more saturated than the supplement industry at this point.
It probably is, but I think the key to finding a place that really can serve the benefit to the people that are in this community, like the fitness community directly, is to go someplace that's familiar with bodybuilding, familiar with PEDs, what we might be doing or have done in the past and whatnot, not just because that's like, oh, we know how to fix certain problems, but because it's more conducive with the mindset of the individual coming in. And generally, in my experience, I've found that clinics and like wellness spas and therapy centers, anybody that offers HRT, offers peptides and whatnot, if they're at least aware of what's happening on the kind of gray area side of things, then they tend to be a little bit ahead of the curve in what they're practicing and what they're prescribing. Not that they're just, not the good ones at least, giving whoever whatever they want. It's like, oh, you want Anavar, here's your Anavar. We don't need your blood work. Right. But to understand why it is that we do these things, because we're not just trying to bring up hormone levels to just balance things so we're kind of healthy. We're trying to optimize everything. And that's where we kind of like get into all these issues and people arguing online like, oh, that's not HRT. That's not an HRT dose. There's no such thing as an HRT dose. What brings the person to where they want to be and where they feel the best. So like what type of stuff are you seeing like in practice that is maybe something where it's like, hey, all the other guys are kind of missing the boat on this. Like, what are you guys doing that's different based on your background as more of a hardcore bodybuilder?
Great question. Estrogen. Everyone's blocking estrogen. Estrogen's bad for you. We need to lower your estrogen. You can't treat just the numbers. You have to treat the symptoms. So how is estrogen bad if it's 60, 80? And what I mean by that is, well, that's 60, 80, but your testosterone's maybe 1500. So is it bad? Or is it just in line of what's happening because of your testosterone? If you're not having any gyno, if you're not having any ED, if you're not having any anxiety or sleep issues, how is it bad? Because having a good amount of estrogen helps with heart health, prostate health. It's very good for you on the anabolic effect. So why are we using estrogen blocking agents to draw down your estrogen because it's too high? And why are we putting it in testosterone as well? I've seen testosterones with it. I don't get it. The anastrozole should not be in fucking testosterone. Like, how do you even dose that? You know, I don't know. So anyways, but yeah, I think that's the thing about us. We don't even touch estrogen or anastrozole due to the fact that if you're not having a symptom, why treat it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed 1,000%.
And I think what happens is in the bodybuilding community, people take drugs in order to see the side effects to know that they're working.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really what they're supposed to. Why would you want to see a side effect to see if it's really working?
Oh, that's so true. That whole thing about like, oh, this trend is garbage because I don't have night sweats. I'm not a piece of shit right now. It's like, dude, that's not what you're taking it for.
Yeah. So it just, I think that's the number one thing that what we do different from our clinic is that like the estrogen thing. I've 90% of the people that switch over from a company are on anastrozole, whether it's a half a week or 1 milligram a day. And I've seen so many crazy different things. I want to take it back to one of the things that you said is, what's an HRT dose or what's a TRT dose? How do we determine that? I don't know where in the rule book that 200 milligrams is the only dose.
Apparently it says that somewhere because every time somebody says something that they're taking, somebody's there to chime in to say that's not HRT. But explain to us why that's not the case. Like it has to do, I know, with treating symptoms, treating numbers, but numbers as a reference point for the symptoms. How do you find out what the actual TRT dose for an individual is?
What we do is, when do you start feeling good? I mean, I know that's a very blush answer. Well, I feel it. Okay. We do get to a certain saturation point, right? When you're taking 200 and you're probably not going to feel that any longer. So if you go up, you're going to feel it, right? Mm-hmm. I get it. But when are you actually feeling better? When does the cognitive ability start kicking in? When does your energy production start going? I'm dealing with people on a regular basis. I'm not talking about bodybuilding. So let's separate ourselves from building muscle or anything. Let's talk about main in the day trenches. When are you feeling better? That's I think how we determine, and that's what we do on our end, what's a good TRT dose. Because as you know, when we take stuff, everyone's different. You might take 200 and be like, I have a friend that is he's hypersensitive to everything. He'll take 200. He's like, holy shit. And you see it. I'm like, dude, how much, what are you taking right now? Like 200 milligrams a test. I'm like, dude, you look like you're fucking all jacked up. I'm like, holy shit, I wish I was like that. Mm-hmm. So you have to play with that too, right? Our clinic likes our my MD likes the levels around 1200 to 1500. Mm-hmm. That's where he likes it. You know, hematocrit, hemoglobin, red blood cell count. I know there's I don't know how you feel. So I'm open to discuss, but like, donating blood on TRT, why? Well, you're naturally going to raise it. And I've skewed my blood work too. I've skewed my blood work for my red blood cell, my hematocrit, hemoglobin are all normal because I just hydrated before I went.
Let's go into detail on that a little bit too, because the hematocrit thing is something that periodically comes up every couple of years. It'll become like flavor of the month for a little while. People will fight about it, obsess over it, argue over it. And it's actually very hard to find actual concrete information. So let me give you my experience with it. So I'm your typical not hyper responder to testosterone. I metabolize it very quickly. So funny because you mentioned a minute ago, it kind of mirrors a story of mine. Years ago, I started up a clinic in Tampa that's no longer there, but well, I'm no longer involved in it. So my business partner and I at the time were both taking 200 milligrams of testosterone, and then we were monitoring absolutely everything because we were younger and it was the first time ever that we had access to unlimited blood work and everything like that. So we're running everything and running all these numbers. On just baseline HRT of 200 mgs of testosterone, my test levels were 600, his were 1500. Literally the same exact testosterone cypionate MCT oil from Empower Pharmacy, dosing it the same. We were both dosing it twice a week, and there's arguments for more frequently. There's not really much of an argument for less frequently, but I think at least 2 is ideal, maybe 3, if not every day, if you can sustain that or put up with it. But taking it the same way, we're about 2 years apart in age. Similar, I'm a little bit bigger, but not significantly. And that's a huge discrepancy. Now, for me to get to like 1200 for my total test levels, I need to take 300 milligrams per week. And in the past, it was even worse because I would have to take 400 because I had really high SHBG. And you can argue whether or not that's the right way to go about it. But my doctor at the time, who was a former cardiologist, just said, hey, based on all this, let's just give you more testosterone because you're not using a lot of it. And we'll bring those levels up higher. And I was totally fine. But at the end of the day, getting a little bit older, getting a little bit leaner too, SHBG coming down, I was able to maintain that like 1200, but on 300 mgs a test. Now, if I say online, I'm just taking HRT, it's 300 mgs, I'm going to get 45 people going, that's not HRT. It's like, all right, thank you, doctor. Like whatever medical degree you have, I'm sure substantiates that. But there's such a massive discrepancy. Now, hematocrit is the one thing that's kind of all over the place because some people get a massive boost in it. Some people it comes up a little bit. So what are we looking out for? Because I know that it's overstated in that if your numbers creep up by a point or two, you're not going to drop dead. But if you're chronically super high, that can be a problem. But then they tell you to donate blood. And I played that game because my one side effect from 300 milligrams is that my hematocrit jumps up pretty high at times. If I give blood every month or every other month even, my iron and my ferritin tank, and I end up making myself anemic, which is a whole other world of problems, and that takes months to restore. So how the fuck do you navigate hematocrit in HRT or in an enhanced bodybuilder?
Well, that's a really great question. I think, number one, when we look at elevation, where do you live? Here in Florida, we're right at sea level. Might be below sea level at this point. I don't even know. But we're not going to have elevation. So everything that's going to be happening here is due to chemicals, right? What we're taking. If you live in Utah, your hematocrit might be higher. When pilots get their blood work done, their hematocrit, hemoglobin, and RBCs are high no matter what. So what is the issue? And they might not be taking anything. So we have to, I feel like you always have to look back at what's the root cause, what's going on. It can't just be a numbers game, because if it was a numbers game, then, we'd all be in probably critical condition at this point, reading off our creatinine levels and our kidney function and all that crazy stuff. So what I tell everybody is this: when you go get your blood work done, drink at least a liter of water. So at least I know going into it, hopefully they do that, but in the perfect world, they do. That usually subsides 100 times out of 100. Now, if you're taking testosterone, you could just be that person that runs high. Well, now what's your blood pressure look like? Is that running high? What are your kidney numbers looking like? Do we have to do cystatin C to see what, your filtration is? If your filtration keeps going up, maybe there's too much pressure in your body right now. So we would lower that. And maybe we would say, hey, go dump blood. Let's try to tone back after the donating, and let's go back to a lower dose. For taking gear in itself, oh, fuck, man, that's a fucking chemical disaster. I think for bodybuilding, if you're blasting gear, there should be a donation.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that. Have I done that? Not my whole time. That was more the last couple of years of my competing, because I knew, like, well, if this shit is really getting thick, like, no matter how much water I drink, this is going to feel, thick. And polycythemia is the blood thickening disease, which is really rare. So when people say, "Oh, my blood's thick," I'm like, "So you have polycythemia?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Well, how's your blood thick?" It's just how it expands in your body with your red blood cells. That's the thickness. And that's where a lot of doctors don't understand either. They just tell everyone they have thick blood and they're going to have a fucking stroke or heart attack, the typical on the line. But I would say hydrate first. Go pull your blood, control the variables. And if it is high, well, then, go down your checklist.
How often do you believe in blood work for the normal but enhanced individual and somebody that might be pushing the limits a little bit? Because there's a lot of controversy on that, because you'll hear people talking about the importance of blood work and then they'll say they get it done once a year, and then you'll have other people over obsessing and doing it all the time. So what's adequate? I like to do it 3 to 4 times per year personally, but I know that that's probably overboard because I'm not really blasting androgens at this point in my life anymore, but I just like to see what's going on. So for somebody that's not just experimenting, they might be taking some stuff, they maybe run a cycle here and there, like, what do you think optimal actually is?
I'm saying every quarter. Every quarter, run your blood work.
Gotcha.
See what's going on, man. You never know. Listen, you could be healthy until you're not.
Diving into that a little bit more, we all have our basic blood panels. Most of us, hopefully everybody watching this has pulled blood work at least once before. Like,
right. Yeah.
I guarantee you there's plenty of people that haven't, which is maddening. But if you're watching this and you haven't, go fucking get it done. It's like fucking $300 at the most. Just fucking do it. But what are some of the markers that you feel are important that get overlooked? Because we all talk about, your triglycerides, cholesterol. Sure. Everybody talks about like creatinine. Everybody talks about AST, ALT. Yeah. What are some of the overlooked markers that you like to see?
Of course, GGT for your liver, creatinine C for your kidney function. I think, and this is what I caught: albumin to creatinine and protein to creatinine.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
So that's a urinalysis test. And what that's going to dictate is how much protein is being circulated in your urine. Your albumin to creatinine ratio is a filtering system of leaking protein. And that should be anywhere from 0 to 30. Well, the reason why I found this out is because I did a urinalysis test for life insurance, and mine was 311. And I was like, I didn't know anything at that time. I said, oh, okay. So I start looking into this. I said, what the hell? What test did I even do? I start reading, and I'm like, that explains the bubbles in my urine. And I was like, well, what is that? I'm leaking protein in my urine. Well, how am I leaking protein? Well, your kidneys aren't filtering correctly. Or you have an issue with the actual filtration process of, it might be autoimmune, it might be lupus, it might be, there's a lot of things. So I was like, what the fuck? So I started looking into it more and more, and holy shit, dude, this is like serious shit. Like, this could lead to dialysis. Now, that's the extreme, right? But you look into it and you're like, whoa. So I pull my SAT&C, I pull my my estimated EGFR as well. Everything's fine. Numbers fine, creatinine's fine, everything's fine. I'm like, okay, cool. So I went through this whole process and found out that when you leak protein, it could damage your kidneys over time. Depends on the level, right? The lowest I've got mine down is to 142. It's supposed to be under 30. At this point, probably it won't be because of, number one, my size. I only eat 250 grams of protein, so I'll have to cut that really back, stop training as hard. I'd have to do a lot of lifestyle changes that I don't want to do right now. And this don't take the wrong way, but I'm not blasting gear no more. That's not what I'm doing. Androgens are not on the table right now. But what I would have to do to really get that down to a certain level of normal would be a huge, I'd probably have to strip about 50 pounds off. So I guess on this rant, I don't think anyone looks at those. And that was a decades later effect on your kidneys. It won't happen now. It'll happen 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Mhm.
Some people say, hey, fuck it. I don't want to say fuck it because I already pulled so many years off my life taking steroids.
Mhm.
I don't, the average, I put this post up a couple days ago. The average male in the world lives to 70.
Mhm.
I don't know how much time I got, man.
Well, it's one of those things. Once you hit 40, you realize that 70 ain't that far away. And that's something that I've been dealing with the last couple of years as 40 was creeping up. Then when I hit it, it's like, you know, I was one of those guys that in my 20s and whatnot, my story was a little bit more diluted, I guess, by my goals at the time because I had a WWE contract in front of me and it was like, get big and you can do this. And I was like, I don't give a fuck what happens later. I'm going to get as big as possible now. And later comes really quickly. And then it gets to the point where a couple of years ago, I just kind of woke up one day and was like, I need to get every organ scan possible. I need to get all this work done because I don't know what the fuck I actually did in my 20s and early 30s. And luckily enough, I was relatively unscathed. I was always a little bit neurotic, so I always ran some health stuff in the background, albeit probably not anywhere close to enough in the beginning. But that catches up with you really quickly. I know that whole live 5 years a lion rather than 30 years a lamb stuff. That sounds really cool if you're like 28 years old and trying to get laid. But outside of that, it's kind of like, those years go by really quickly and then you want to be here longer, especially now when we can be relatively jacked and healthy for longer periods of time into our later years. What was it that you think might have put you in the direction to be dealing with the kidney issues now? Anything specific that you think might have caused it? Is it more genetic? And what are you doing now to manage it from every angle, supplements, peptides, etc.? Like, what can we do to avoid this? And then what can we do to fix kidney issues?
Yeah. So I would say, I think it was just pressure, just the amount of pressure between years of growth hormone, years of androgens, years of pushing, training. And I don't know if it was genetic because no one has had this in my family. So is it genetic? I don't know. I do have autoimmune stuff in my family. So the only thing else I can do, I've done a IgA test, which is a whole nother thing. I would have to see what type of inflammation I have from maybe rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or something like that. But long story short, yeah, I think it's just from years of pushing, man. I mean, I started taking pro hormones when I was like 17, 18. Mm-hmm. Back when mass tabs were around and all these different fucking things, Yep. So I think it just from the years of it getting to this point, I don't know what exactly was. I mean, I can't say it wasn't steroids, but it was for sure. Mm-hmm. And what I'm doing now, so my kidney function right now is like excellent. Like when you pull my statin C and what it looks like, my numbers are great, right? It ranges anywhere from 70 to 80 on the score, which is a really good score. Anything over 1 is you're in trouble. So I think that's a really good score for where we are. My filtration is excellent. Everything's great. My creatinine's low, which is bizarre, but everything is great. So my kidney health is perfect right now. What leads you into is not taking care of it. So what did I do? Well, the weird part is there's not a lot of people talking about this. I was trying to research it. Of course, you research it and you start seeing what people want you to do. They want you to go vegan. They want you to stop eating protein. I mean, we're talking like a lifestyle change to where like you are not who you are any longer.
Right.
So, and that doesn't like confirm you're going to live longer either. So there's like there's a weird feeling you get when you come down with something or you're having to deal with something. You're like, well, do I want to change what I'm doing now? Or like, how do I want to base this off? I don't know what I've taken off my years. I don't know that number. No one does. But am I going to want to stop what I'm loving to do? Now, we all love to blast and get huge and fucking, but like, so I'm not doing that, right? That's done. Mm-hmm. That's totally done. But how am I going to live out the rest of my years being okay with myself and, doing the things that I should be doing? Right. So anyways, so I put myself on a SLGT2, which is for SIGA, which are you familiar with that?
I don't think so.
Okay. So this actually helps with CKD in prevention. It also helps with your heart.
Mm-hmm.
What it does is it eliminates glucose through the urine. So like if I do a urine test,
I am familiar. Yes.
my glucose is like blasting out of my fucking urine. And is that even good? I don't know. I took to the point I was like, dude, I can only take so much. Like,
now these are like the new metformin, right? Because people are starting to talk about these a lot more because you can actually like get lean with this too, can't you?
Also, it helps with blood sugar issues. It prevents or helps proteinuria, which is what I have.
Mm-hmm.
No nephrologist wanted to give me this. They said, you're fine. I said, yes, I am, but I won't be in 20 years. So how do we prevent it? Well, you don't have CKD. I know I don't want it. So how can I, so long story short, this is how our system works. So I know a friend, she writes medications. She helped me out. So now I have a medication for that. Also, taking an ARB like telmisartan helps with proteinuria, helps with, blood pressure in general. So with kidney stuff, you want to, of course, number one, everyone's always like blood pressure, blood pressure, blood pressure. Well, why? Your system is being pressured by your blood, which is filtering through your kidneys. So we want to eliminate the hard pressure hose, so it all comes down to pressure within the kidneys. And I think that's why with hard training, which you have to do, taking high amounts of growth hormone, which you could do, right? It's all just pressure. And then the steroids. It's a perfect storm for kidney issues.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say is everybody is this, if everything is looking good and you see some bubbles in your urine, and I'm talking like a good amount of bubbles, and not just from like working out, because proteinuria is caused in athletes after training.
Right.
This is like an ongoing thing. Like if you're constantly seeing bubbles, I would highly recommend getting that test done.
Mm-hmm. I want to touch really quickly on what you mentioned about how you got the SGLT2 inhibitor. It's really tough to get medications for off-label use sometimes, and not necessarily off-label use, but preventative use primarily. I just want to speak to that because that really drives the importance for either doing what you did and finding a friend, somebody you could trust that is in the medical field that can provide that, and then the importance of going to a company like BioXL where the providers can actually say, hey, like based on what you're presenting us, yes, that does make sense. It was like pulling teeth for me. I went through 3 primary care doctors and then finally found a good one that's a concierge doctor that I'm still with to this day to get myself a prescription for just 40 milligrams of telmisartan per day. Reason being is I got diagnosed by doctor number 1 with white coat syndrome, meaning that for anybody that's not familiar, you go in to get your blood pressure tested. It spikes up to like 150 over 100. They say you have high blood pressure. I say I take it all the time. I really don't. It's usually 120 over 70. They give you an at-home monitor for like 5 days to use. And then that confirms, oh, this guy's blood pressure is fine most of the time. It's just when he gets really stressed out or whenever he's in the doctor. I'm fucking neurotic. I get it. So are a lot of people. Big deal. But then I presented the case like, hey, I don't really have a deep family history, but my grandfather had to have a quadruple bypass when he was 60. And then he's still alive. He's 91 years old right now, but he had another heart attack at 89, survived that one too.
Wow.
After doing everything completely right. He trains every day. He does everything, but genetically there's something there. Now, my uncle, my mom, my aunt, like nobody else has any issues, no other issues in the family. So I understand there not being like an extensive family history, but I have that. And then they confirmed, multiple doctors confirmed, I have this white coat syndrome where when I get stressed, because I don't want to read bad blood pressure at the doctor's office, it pops up no matter what fucking breathing exercises I do, no matter how much I calm myself down, no matter how much I study physiology and go, I'm perfectly fine. The motherfucker still spikes. So my issue that I brought to every single doctor was, hey, I'm a successful entrepreneur, which is also stressful as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I love my fiance to death. I live with a high achieving woman. That's stressful as fuck also. I have 3 rescue pit bulls. I'm a homeowner. I have all these things that go on in my life where I'm not chronically unhappy or stressed, but my stress levels probably jump at least 40 times per day at some point or another.
Right.
So my issue was if my blood pressure spike into 150 over 100 when I don't want to get my blood pressure rate read, what is it when I get a shitty email or I have to pay an unexpected bill or my dog's getting a fight or my girl is just in a crappy mood? Like, is it spiking throughout the course of the day? Because the 24-hour monitor showed a bunch of little spikes, but they're like, oh, that's normal. My whole thing was, well, here's all this information I researched on telmisartan and how it's not going to do anything bad to me. In fact, it's going to do a lot of good stuff. And all the long-term studies are great. I was already late 30s at this point in time, so it's not like I'm starting at 21. Why don't we just do this? And I got all these no's across the board. So I had to literally spend thousands of dollars finding a provider that would just prescribe me telmisartan. Now, could I have gotten it online? I'm sure I could have. But situationally, having a good doctor in your corner is incredibly important. What are some other things that you're seeing that people are just being denied the appropriate care, or maybe they're not even thinking about it? What are the mistakes that some people are making, or what are the things being overlooked by maybe the people that are pushing the limits that are going to get to the point where they need medical intervention?
You want to talk about the bodybuilding community, or you just start talking about like?
Let's focus on the bodybuilding community, but we'll look at it through the lens of not necessarily high-level competitive bodybuilders, because let's face it, every gym bro and gym girl right now, the guys are all taking a bunch of fucking, well, Equipoise is the flavor of the month, and then the girls are all taking whatever they can get their hands on to try and get big glutes and this, that, and the other thing. So it's like, more power to them. God bless them. But my point is, people are still out there pushing the limits regardless of whether or not they're bodybuilders. But let's look at it through the bodybuilding lens, because that kind of controls the narrative. People are out there doing the dumb shit that you and I used to do.
Yep.
What's some of the worst stuff that they're doing? Stuff like we already talked about, like tanking estrogen for no reason, but men and women, like what's going on? How are people fucking themselves up without even realizing it? And how can they get ahead of it?
I hate to say this because I'm one of them, but listening to people online and what I mean by that is listening to everyone. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to have a different opinion. I just did a recent video on Tren, and I said, it's fucking terrible for you. If you're not a top Olympian or a top level competitor, you shouldn't be taking this. And on that aspect, I didn't even take a lot back when I was doing it. And I know a lot of top pros don't even take a lot of it. So the amount of stuff that I've heard by a gym bro is astronomical. We see bodybuilding people die in our industry a lot. How many people die that are gym bro and we don't hear about? Mm-hmm. That is the scary part. I think for men, the stupidest thing that you are doing is taking Tren. Listen, man. This goes back to like these fucking kids too. No one wants to give this time. Shit takes at least a decade before you got your shit together and you're fucking putting on some good size. And the reason why I say is because we're really talking about the gym bros. Like if you got genetics, you got genetics. Cool. It ain't going to take you that long. You already know. Mm-hmm. But when you don't have this shit, it's going to take you a long time. It took me a fucking long time. And I was blasting away. And look, hey, I got a little problem now. I got to worry about protein in my urine, blah, blah, blah. Thank God it's not terrible. And thank God I'm smart enough to know what to do. But these people, bro, just like you said, get your blood work done. These people aren't going to get their blood work done. And they're blasting away. People think cruising now is 300 this and 300 that. And like, I don't know. So from the aspect of men, the Tren is the ultimate, like, okay, Tren in time. Mm-hmm. For the women, I feel bad for women because the women are going to deal with the most harsh side effects from taking these drugs. Voice, clit enlargement, facial changes, hair loss. It doesn't go back. And once you go down that deep road, there's no turning back either. Mm-hmm. I understand it takes what you have to do it in order to achieve a certain look. But these girls are being fed this shit on Instagram by AI now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have influencers saying that. So it's like this mishmash of just shit, man. So Anavar, people pop Anavar, girls pop Anavar like it's fucking Skittles. I don't even hear about Clen any longer. Clen used to be the thing, right?
Yep.
I'm at the point where I'm like, well, Clen's not good for you either, but like at least your heart will blow up. You know what I'm saying?
Your heart will blow up, but you'll be the same gender as when you started.
Yeah,
so
it's like it's really hard, man, and that's what I see. And I get a lot of patients that come to my clinic, man, and they're like, "Hey, man, like I want to run a cycle. What do I do?" I'm like, I can't tell you what to do, man. We're here for HRT.
Mm-hmm.
But what you start figuring out is like if you don't put out the educational piece indirectly, I'm just giving education, my personal my experiences. People are going to do what they want to do, anyways.
Mm-hmm. People will find a way to find that information. Now, when I was taking on more coaching clients and trying to focus on that aspect of my business before stepping into more just broad education, I always had this weird place where people would come to me, and eventually I gained a reputation as somebody that could fix problems. But when I was just building my reputation as somebody that like, oh, a lot of people know him, so he probably knows some shit. Here's all the gear that I want to take. Here's what I want to do. And I still see that in recent years with consult calls and whatnot with people in the peptide community, because that's where I've been focusing a lot of my time. It's, hey, I want to do all this stuff and then tell me what else to take. And then it's a tough conversation on the coach's part because there's always that little thing in the back of your head where it's like, if I don't let him do what he wants, he's just going to go elsewhere because he'll find somebody that will let him do what he wants. Yeah. Now, luckily, I've always had my business set up, so I've had multiple revenue sources. So it's always been a situation where I'm like, all right, well, I don't need to risk anything with this guy. This is going to be a problem. I'm just not going to work with him. And then as the years went on and I became more comfortable, now it's a situation where it's like if somebody even calls and says, hey, tell me how to do this. Nope, that's not a good idea for you. Here's your money back. Let's not even go there. If you're going to go somewhere else, you're going to go somewhere else. But I think that's one of the biggest problems is that in the coaching industry, people are like, well, I got to let him do this, 80 units of insulin because if I don't, somebody else will let him do it. And the kid's 175 pounds. And then to touch on the AI thing that you said, we're in this weird point right now where AI is being influenced by bad coaches while influencing bad coaches. I don't want to put anybody on blast specifically because I noticed it from like 5 or 6 different people, but I put up a post a few days ago that I noticed like 5 or 6 high-level influencers posting about SLU PP332, and they all called it a PPAR agonist. They were describing it as cardarine. And I was like, that's fucking weird. Why is everybody making the same mistake? And then I was utilizing my Chat GPT assistant because what I'll do is I'll pull studies in Perplexity. I'll feed them the Chat GPT and say, break this down into something that's easy for me to absorb just because that's my own system for research. And I asked it something about SLU and then it gave me the same SLU's a PPAR. So I literally I responded to it. I said, why are you saying that? Because it's not. It works on the ERR receptors. And then it literally just said, you're right. I'm sorry. There's been a lot of information on social media and in discussions online referring to it as this. I pulled that without sticking to the deeper research. And I went, oh, you motherfucker. And that's where all the information from the influencers came from because they're just Chat GPTing it, not reading it and immediately posting it or just reading it verbatim with no actual experience. So that brings me my whole long-winded point. There is so much bad information out there. Like you and I were talking before we started recording about how it was really hard for us to find good information coming up in like the mid-early 2000s. But at least we didn't have this massive sea of crap to cut through. Now it's like there's, 1,000 ways to skin a cat, but there's 20,000 wrong ways too. How do you determine who you're going to listen to? Like, what's your process as somebody that's competed at a high level, somebody that's a business owner that's focused on people's health? How the fuck do you determine, like, if you wake up and you're like, I want to learn some shit today, like, where do you go and how did you figure out how to go there?
So, very good question. I have to say the only person that I personally know that has been on a level of, man, this dude is onto something is Vigorous Steve. Mm-hmm. He pulls his blood work like on a weekly basis at sometimes, depending on what he's taking. He breaks down one product and it takes him an hour to break it down in a YouTube video. He shows studies. He's very honest. He's very upfront with his stuff. And I feel that, as we were speaking before, and I will say it because I think it's good for people to hear, these influencers and these very smart people are barely 200 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
The proof is not in the pudding because they haven't done shit. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'm a fan of Bigger Steve because of what he looks like. He was a bigger guy back in the day. But what he does is true to what he does. And I've spoken to him numerous times. He's very smart. I listen to certain individuals that don't have companies or affiliations with companies and are not trying to sell you a guide or a product.
Mm-hmm.
That is the people I start to listen to. Vigor Steve doesn't sell anything. He's associated, as we all are, with some research chemicals and this and that, blah, blah, blah. But there's no pushing effect from that.
Right.
Now, at some points, I have talked about when I do videos and I collab with BioXL, hey, comment guide and I'll send you the free guide for what I'm talking about. And I will send someone information on SS 31, or I'll send you some information on testosterone. I'm not asking you to fill anything out. It's literally a PDF because it gets me views, it gets me interactions, but I'm also giving something for free to you. So you know that, hey, I'm not trying to sell you something. Here you go. So that's the people that I've turned to start learning from. And also doing my own fucking research. I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, dude, we grew up with MD fucking magazines and In the Trenches YouTubes. No one talked about gear. No one talked about anything. And you know what's funny? The shit that you hear now, people would say it's fucking gay back then. Straight the fuck up. Oh, you have to microdose, or let's microdose this, or let's just shoot this and that. Motherfucker, if people were taking fucking D-ball, EQ, and test way long before this EQ bullshit came out, because Primo and Masteron you can't get. All right, motherfucker, well, no one really took that shit back in the day because that was for fucking girls. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you start to look at these things, you're like, man, back in the day, I wish I had this because we could all be healthier. But like back in the day, people were big as fuck. Not to say people aren't that now. I'm just saying it was just different information.
Well, people were really big back then when we didn't have 800,000 educational Instagram pages and 40,000 research chemical companies. Like there was shit still working. So it's about taking the good, taking what worked, minimizing the damage from the things that we learned might have been problematic later as we learn more and whatnot. But I think that like what you were saying about just finding the right people and then doing your own research is fucking key. And I love what you said too about just checking people's affiliations and whatnot. Obviously, we're all trying to make money here. So I probably dropped at least 3 commercials in this YouTube episode about my $10 a month school group.
Hey, get it, bro. Get it.
I got bills to pay. You know what I mean? My dogs eat a lot of food, is what it is. So not everything we're doing is just for the good of humanity. We're all trying to make a couple bucks here. But you do have to look out for when somebody is just shilling product for the sake of shilling product. And not to say that they're not a good source for that product you might be looking for, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily the right source of information. So if I see a amateur bodybuilder or a just general educator that's kind of all over the place, that's like relentlessly throwing a coupon code at me for a peptide, I might want to do more research into that particular peptide because I might not be getting the full story from that influencer. I get a lot of flack for not posting coupon codes a lot. And also, I've told every company that I've signed on to work with, I won't sign anything exclusive because I'm going to work with at least 10 different peptide companies that I like and respect because A, different people have better prices on different things. B, sometimes some companies are out of shit. And C, I don't want to say, hey, this is my one peptide source. This is my one company. If I own the company, that would be different. I would have full trust in the actual materials. But I don't want to come off like a shill for somebody else's company. I want to say, these are the 5 or 6 companies I work with. These guys I'll respect. Navigate the website and find the best price. So situationally, that's my personal approach. But, and I'm not saying that's what everybody has to do, but there's so many people now. Peptides in general have become the 2026 version of muscle tech, where everybody is sponsored. Everybody is dropping coupon codes left and right. And not nobody, but most of them can't seem to explain to you how any of these peptides actually work, like under the hood on a physiological level, what they're doing, how to really take them. Is just use my coupon code. I know you've been doing a lot of work in the peptide space recently. What, in your opinion, are some of the best peptides you can take for really any purpose? And then what's being overblown? What's not worth it? Like, how do we cut through the crap? Like, what do we want to focus on and what's getting blown out of proportion?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of a few of them. BPC and TB500 are my go-tos.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen renal health with those. I've seen inflammation and tendon repair and muscle breakdown, but recovery. I've seen some studies. Well, I don't know if they're really studies. I shouldn't say that. I should see some things on it of helping cancer. I mean, it's all in one encompassing. Like, by all means, I will take that as long as my funds are correct for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I do 250 to 500 micrograms per day. That might seem a lot to some people, but I'm trying to just keep any inflammation down as possible while I rejuvenate my kidneys, while I help with my issues, while I just live a longer and better life. I think NAD, MOTS-C, and glutathione, I don't know if you want to use those in a peptide realm, but
we can talk about anything in that kind of general area, because technically, not a peptide, but we all look at it that way. So let's go over that entire gray area.
Okay, so those are my go-tos. I think those, on a health perspective, are 100% accurate to what they do. The MOTS-C, I've seen huge for myself. I know it does help with the mitochondria, and I'm in this weird place because I take SS31 every day as well.
Mm-hmm. So do I.
People will argue that you need MOTS-C before you need to take them together. There's this weird conjunction.
Mm-hmm.
I took SS31 before MOTS-C, and I've seen benefits from it. So it's not really you have to kind of.
No, like that 1,000%. Not to derail this part of the conversation, but that one I get kind of angry about. There's one guy, I'm not going to mention his name.
Oh, dude.
He's intelligent in some regards. In some regards, I think he's just talking out his ass. Nobody's going to get his name from me, so nobody even bother asking. Yeah. But it's this definitive, this is how it is. This is how you have to do it. That's not so MOTS-C is basically improving the environment in which the cell goes through all its different processes. So nutrient partitioning, insulin sensitivity, just ease of navigating and pulling substrate into the cell to make into ATP. SS31's binding the cardiolipin is making the cell essentially stronger. Whether or not you make the cell stronger before you improve the environment and the actions that the cell takes, or doing it vice versa, I literally cannot wrap my head around who would possibly give a fuck which one comes first, because they're both doing, it's you have to fix the tires on your car before you fix the bumper of the car, but you're not driving anywhere first. The car's in the shop. Which one do you have to... Dude, fuck off. Sometimes I can't deal with sensationalism for the sake of clicks, and that one drives me nuts. So I'm so glad you said that. Yes. Sorry to derail it. Back to you.
No, it was perfect. So I will tell you this. The reason why I take SS31 every day, I take 10 milligrams a day.
Mm-hmm.
I was up to 40 milligrams a day, and I might go back to it. And the reason why is because they've seen with CKD, 40 milligrams to 80 milligrams is an actual reduction in CKD. I forgot the percent. But when I was listening to this nephrologist talk, and there was only talking about who does what, when you hear nephrologists talk about peptides, now I'm fucking interested.
Yep.
So that was huge. And he was going over his studies and what he has done with his patients with MOTS-C and SS31. So I was very interested in that. And they were running a good amount of MOTS-C. So introduction, that would be, sorry. So let's reiterate. BPC, TB500, MOTS-C, NAD, glutathione, and I'm going to put SS31 into my, I don't give a fuck. This is what I'm taking. Overblown stuff. Red or True Tide. SLU, PP332. 5-amino-1-MQ, Trizepatide, if you want to put in there.
I think those definitely fall in that classification, though, because they're definitely useful tools, but people are pushing them as like the new way to do everything. You would think that you have to run them all, but they're tools like anything else. I do agree with you. Your initial list there, those are the game changers for longevity, for performance, for increasing your health span as well as your lifespan. The others are fine, but we're seeing a lot of stuff where it's like, you're dumb if you don't take this. And I don't necessarily agree with that.
Like, if you're not taking Retatrutide while you're prepping off season or anytime, you're dumb.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, how do you, like, SS31? Oh, excuse me. SLU PP332. This is where you start getting fucking mixed up on these goddamn words.
It's all letters and numbers. And,
so that actually has kidney benefits. Now, the argument is going to be, at what dose?
Right.
We've heard 400 milligrams is what we need to run. We've heard 500 micrograms is what we need to run. So how do we, that's the one that I'm still like, you got one guy that says you can't absorb pills at all because your factory is not whatever the fuck he says.
Right.
And then you got, another company putting out 100 milligram capsules. So where's that spot? And that's where we start to see that finicky area where, well, is it a marketing thing or is there really something to it? I did try 100 milligrams. Couldn't get a pump to save my life.
Oh, wow.
I could not get a pump. Weirdly, though, my bubbles in my urine went down dramatically.
Very interesting.
So I don't know if that was a coincidence. I don't know. I might go back to it to see and pull labs to see if there's any effect. I remember it vividly. I was in New York. I was on vacation and I started taking it because we were going away. I was like, I get a little leaner. And I remember not paying attention and I took a piss. I was like, there's not a lot of bubbles. I was like, that's weird. So
it makes sense on paper when you break down how it's working, but this is a great example kind of looking back on what we were talking about, like how do you find the right people to listen to, like how do you dive into the research and whatnot, because this one steps outside the box of like, hey, there's a bunch of idiots fighting whether or not this is good or this is bad or this dose is this or this dose is that. And there's plenty of idiots fighting in the SLU realm. I'm not saying there's not, but we have two sides of the coin that get debated quite often. And in this particular case, as well as other ones too, I'll just use this as an example because I know and respect both guys, but you'll have like Brian at BioLongevity Labs.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to
400. I love both these guys, so I'll name both of them because I actually like and respect them both personally and professionally. You have Brian putting out a ton of research and a ton of information and testing it on himself, 400 milligrams plus. And then you have Dr. Dean saying like, I don't know if we should be going above like this 1 milligram ish. I don't want to quote him directly. So if I misquoted the actual dose, he said, don't crucify me, anybody. But you have Dr. Dean on the more conservative side. And then you have Brian on the, well, this makes perfect sense side. And here's the deal. Both of these guys, both are great dudes. They've both been on the podcast. They're both people that I've messaged before with questions, personal questions about things, and they've been more than happy to help out. So great people, obviously both brilliant and highly educated. They're on opposite sides of the spectrum.
Right.
So how are you to tell me, random kid online, that this is stupid, do this way, when you have these two like brilliant scientists at the top of their game that are seeing complete opposite sides of it? And that's where navigating it becomes on the part of the individual. Yes. And that's why it becomes so important for people like us to put out information, but to put out information that encompasses like, hey, this is all the information that's out there. Because at the end of the day, you have to navigate this yourself. You just have to pull from the right places. And SLU's wild like that. Now, do you find that outside of SLU, obviously we talked about experimenting with that one and kidney function and whatnot, like the ones that you don't necessarily like, the ones that you think are getting a little bit overblown, are those okay as like occasional tools, like we're running courses or cycles with them? Or do you think that those should be kind of left off the table entirely?
No. I don't think right now in this world anything is going to be left off to the table, because let's be honest, in bodybuilding there are no rules.
Mhm.
Everything is on the table, whether that's site enhancement oils, whether that's running 1,000 milligrams of Trent. Everything is on the table. There's no rules. I think that Retta, for the ones that I think are just like overly used and overblown, that the Retta, like, come on, man. Like, if you can't fucking stop your cravings and stop your mouth, like, it is what it is. Like,
Mhm.
you're going to stay on this for how long? Because, it helps with body composition. Supposedly it helps with your cholesterol. I was taking it for a while and it did nothing for my cholesterol. It did nothing for my cholesterol, and my A1C went up. So go figure.
Right. But definitely makes the case for why we monitor our shit, why we don't just listen to one person say this is what happens and we take it at face value.
Yeah.
You've got to absolutely monitor it. Now, I'm going to hot seat you for our last question,
Sure.
because I want this to be kind of like the ultimate deep dive. I mean, you can go for 20 minutes if you want to, or we can encompass this into something smaller, because I want this to be kind of no stone unturned.
Okay.
So I want to combine younger you pushing the limits, trying to get as big as humanly possible, coming up watching Ronnie Coleman videos, and business owner, HRT, peptide expert you, and basically put you into your younger body. And let's say that you're in an average state. You're making a comeback after not training for a little while, or let's just say you're not at the top of your game. You're kind of in shape. You're kind of jacked. You're kind of lean. You're kind of strong. There's no problems to correct. You don't want to cause any problems, but you're like average gym guy. And now you're saying it's 2026. We have all of this stuff at our disposal on the steroid end of it and the growth hormone end of it and the insulin end of it, the peptide end of it, the glutathione end of it, like the health end of it. What are you going to do if you have 1 year and your goal is to just become as fucking freakish as possible, but you don't want to kill yourself or take years off your life? How do you piece this together? What are the chemicals you're choosing? How are you dieting? Like, what's the over-encompassing? Like, how do you do that? How do you get this freak transformation with all the tools that we have?
You want my really honest opinion? This is going to sound really fucking stupid.
1,000%.
You don't do it.
Interesting. Don't do it. Please explain.
It's not worth it. And in 1 year, you really can't make a dramatic difference unless you're an Olympian top type of person. You can get leaner, you can put on some size, but it's not going to be what you ever wanted it to be, because you'll never be what you ever want to be. Our thought processes are unfortunately skewed by social media and what people think about us. But internally, we're still unhappy with ourselves. So no matter what I did for that whole entire year, it wouldn't be enough at the end of the year. So I would just save yourself, enjoy yourself, have fun, and not do it.
I have had a lot of smart people on this podcast over the course of the last year, and I got to give you props for probably the most mature and responsible answer to any question ever. Yeah. And I'm going to completely ruin it. And I'm going to say 1 year to get shredded. Okay. What drugs are you taking and why?
Oh man, 1 year to get shredded. Okay. So I'm actually going to do
not contest prep, just ungodly shredded.
Just lean. Yeah. Honestly, I'm going to go with, of course, testosterone. Whatever you want to call it, a TRT dose. Of whatever, of course, you think. I'm actually going to throw in there some Primo or Mastron, whatever you can hopefully get. A low dose of that. Keep it very low. I would throw in actually injectable L-carnitine. I've seen personally benefits on that. I would throw in there your SLU, your MOTC, don't know how much mitochondria overload or ROS we can produce, but I've been highly on that. Take your L-glutathione. And of course, at the end of the day, give it time, diet, and do some fucking cardio. And honestly, get some sleep. Because I think sleep is the most important one. I know, and I'm saying all this because it really doesn't take a lot for you to get lean. It's being in a calorie deficit, expending energy. If you throw a little primo in there and with some testosterone, with some, it's not detrimental to your health.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. And we're talking low doses.
Right.
And if you want a dose, let's just say 300 and 300, a 1-to-1 ratio. I'm just giving that as something that someone could just base something off of, right?
Right. Very general.
Yeah. You could do 3 to 4 IUs of growth, 500 milligrams of L-carnitine injectable, your MOTS-C, your SLU. You guys know the milligrams you guys can pick, and just do that. That would probably be the healthiest way to get lean or to put on muscle, to be quite honest with you,
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
But I had to say that, man. Like that is probably the truest thing that anyone can say, man. Like, and I hope that doesn't, come off the wrong way to you. I just see so many people fuck themselves up, and I'm tired of seeing it. And I don't think we understand the repercussions of what we've done until it's later on in life. And we are going to see in the next 10 years, a lot of people drop dead.
Yep. Unfortunately, that's the truth.
I don't want to be a fox, and I do not want to be a statistic. I can't promise that. I can't. No one can. But I don't want to be on that list, man. Mm-hmm. And these kids don't understand what they're getting themselves into. And I think for us being the older generation, we're the old dudes now. They're the OGs. This sucks. Mm-hmm. We have to navigate. We have to help these kids. But as we know, we were going to do whatever we wanted to do anyways when we were young.
Yep.
So putting out real information to help these kids, and as much hate as I got on my last trend video, it's all good, bro, because I might have saved one person.
Yep. Exactly. And again, it's all about just putting out that information so the people that can find it and do find it, hopefully apply it, or at least learn from it, or that points them in the right direction, can continue to learn. And then the fact is, we do have these other options now. There are ways to navigate, not necessarily the extremes, but you can get where a lot of people want to go doing it the smart way. You might not be able to get super big and super shredded with no risk or no harm, but you can get pretty big pretty safely, and you can get pretty goddamn lean pretty safely. It's just about finding the right information, applying it intelligently, not being in a rush. And then, like you said, honestly, probably the best answer I've ever gotten to any question on this podcast ever: how would you do this massive, gnarly, crazy, holy fuck transformation? You don't.
Yeah.
But then I had to follow that up with what drugs would you do in this situation?
I love that. I love that question, because as I sit here and you're telling me if you were going to do it, I start thinking about everything, the time, the sacrifice, the money. I start going through this whole fucking rabbit hole of my thoughts of what did I do to get here? Listen, I have to say this. I'm happy that I got out of bodybuilding when I got out of it, and I'm happy that nothing serious is wrong. Yes, I have a little issue that I'll be fine. If I'm not blasting gear, I'm going to be fine, theoretically. Mm-hmm. But dude, it made my life. It got me to meet my wife. It got me to own an HRT clinic. It gave me so much experience. I was at the Champs gym, and I started at BPI working there in 2014. So I was with Jay before Cutler Nutrition was out. So this journey that I've had, man, dude, I've met some cool people. I was with Jay Cutler for 3 fucking weeks. I was with Courtney King for a week when she won the Miss Olympia. Mm-hmm. I was with Reagan Grimes. I've been with Big Ramy. I've been with all these fucking people, and because of bodybuilding. So if it makes your life and it's got you to where it's point to be where you wanted to be this and want to be that, you can't be really mad with the risk to reward, right?
No, not at all.
And I think as you get older, you start to conceptualize that I'm fuck, I can't blast shit, but maybe it's for the better. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's because I'm going to live longer. So whatever you believe in, but the universe gave me this issue to have because it knows that my mindset's like, yo, if I don't rope you down, you're going to be fucking off to the races somewhere else.
Yep.
Long story short, what we do in our past molds us into who we are today. And that's just how it is. So that's why as we grow and we're older, we can only give our experiences to the younger generation.
Exactly. We need to put the information out there and they're going to do with it what they will. It's just there needs to be contribution to the positive side of putting information out there because Lord knows that it is it's a bit of a fucking jungle out there on social media. But in terms of finding the good on social media, DT Roth, where do we find your information? Where do we find what you're posting? I know you post stuff basically unfiltered all the time. We get your real thoughts and real feelings on things. How do we find more of that for those of us that aren't following you already? And then how do we find more on BioXL?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So it's on Instagram, it's dt.roth. It's the only one on there. It's my only account. On TikTok, it's dt.roth. It's my only TikTok account. Me and my wife do have a podcast that we do. We're trying to be more consistent on it. It's very unfiltered and very, very, very funny. That is called Be Unlabeled. That's our YouTube. Nice. And BioXL, of course, you can just contact us at bioxl.net. Or if you want to just DM me on my personal, whatever, you can get to me anyway. But yeah, that's my little plug.
Nice. Just want to make sure that we get that in there. I will add in too, though. So BioXL is nationwide telemedicine, right? You don't have to like live in your area or anything, right?
No, we do all telemedicine. We do service all 50 states. Unfortunately, as you know, some compounding pharmacies cannot ship certain products into certain states. Right. But with that being said, we do service everybody, and we have peptides as well. They are not research chemicals. They are not as cheap as those. They are coming from a compounding pharmacy. So unfortunately, there's going to be a little more of a cost to that. But at least you're getting, and I'm not saying that research isn't real, but at least you're getting legit, real compounded pharmaceutical grade peptides.
At the end of the day, you get what you pay for, and this is an industry that you don't want to cut corners on. It is worth a couple extra bucks to make sure that you're getting the highest quality stuff. And that's me saying that, not him. I'm not affiliated. I don't have an HRT company. That's just the way it is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for checking out the DDT Method podcast. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise. This has been amazing, and I'm sure this will help out a ton of people. And hopefully this gets a few more people to kind of check out your clinic, check out what's available in terms of blood work, HRT, peptides, et cetera, et cetera. And we'd love to have you back on to deep dive into another topic in the future.